Hey everybody, it's Babette with Haggerty Dog Training on Thursday's Q&A, and it's great to have you all here. Excited to be here. I haven't been here in a few weeks. There's a lot of good things I wanted to talk to you about, um, and I'm just looking at my notes because there are a lot of things that have come across my desk in the last couple of weeks that I just wanted to bring up. Super important points. It was like last week, my cousin brought to my attention that there was this news story. It's a horrible, horrible story. A dog walker went out to a home to meet the family and their two dogs. They were two mixes, rescue dogs. I don't remember off the top of my head what they were mixed with, and I don't even want to misspeak on the mixes. But she met the dogs. She had no problem. She was 22 years old, college student, and the owners went away. The owners did know that their dogs had protective instincts or protective tendencies. Protective tendencies, it's air quotes for a reason. And I'll get to that in a moment. And she went back to walk the dogs and let them out. And apparently they mauled her, bit off her face. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible story. And it's horrible on so many levels. And the reason why I want to bring up this story is because I feel for everybody in this situation. There were also a lot of mistakes that were made in this situation. I don't have all of the facts, but I'm just going based on what I know. And I want to use this as an opportunity for people to just take heed to the warning. Just think twice before you hire a dog walker. If you're a dog walker, think twice about before going to a home. You have to remember now, when the owners let the girl into the home, they were with their owners. Okay, the owners were controlling the situation, managing the situation. Now someone's coming into the home when the owners aren't home. So, I am certain that these dogs showed signs of problem behavior and aggression before this girl walked into the house by herself. Whether the owners never knew or they were in denial, I don't know that part. But dogs don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to be aggressive." Like, it just doesn't work that way. The signs are there. All you have to do is know the signs to look for. The average dog owner doesn't know the signs to look for. Now, I'm going to start with the owners in this situation, or owners across the board. If you are an owner that has a dog that you say is, "Oh, he's just being protective," I implore you to get your head out of the sand and consult with a professional trainer. Because if you think your dog is protective, okay, you are probably deluding yourself, and you probably have a much bigger problem than you realize. And I'm not trying to criticize you. I want to bring to your attention that do not sugarcoat the potential problem with your dog. Okay, please don't dismiss that your dog is just being protective. What kind of dog you have, I don't care how old your dog is, I don't care how many dogs you've had. If you get yourself a professional trainer, you're going to be in a much better situation to handle your dog. You're going to have less behavioral problems with your dogs or dog. And it's super important. And I have always believed that every single person, the minute their dog walked into their home, whether it's an 8-week-old puppy or an 8-year-old rescue dog or, a rehome of any kind, if they would get their dogs to a good group obedience class, it would make a world of difference, and they would have much less problems with their dogs. Getting back to the situation. So I can't imagine that these owners, whether they knew it or not, take that as a warning. Go get your dogs into a good obedience class, whether it's group classes, an economical group class with a good trainer, not just, a cookie pusher that, just learned how to train dogs out of a 3-ring notebook next week. And, tomorrow they're running up, the sales on the cash register. You want somebody who is a dog trainer. This is what they do. And they learned with lots of dogs, not just their dog that they have at home. If you're a dog walker, and I applaud this girl, 22 years old, out there hustling, walking dogs, think twice before you think that you know all about dogs. And I'm not directing this to this girl. My heart is broken for this girl. I feel so sad for this girl. But if you're a dog walker / pet sitter, please get yourself an education on dogs. Go apprentice underneath a dog trainer. Go work with lots of dogs. Go work in a daycare, dog daycare. Learn how to read dogs. Learn how to identify problem behaviors before you start walking into the home and handing out your card as a dog walker. Because I know a lot of people will hire the kid down the street. And you know what? The kid down the street doesn't know what they're doing. And yeah, it's a cheaper way to do it, but you really want a professional, especially if you have somebody coming into your home. You need to have a professional coming into your home to walk your dog. There was a case, and I know I've mentioned it a few times. There was a case like a year or so ago, not too far from here, that the dog walker, I think, was like a slash neighbor. It was just a nice lady in the neighborhood that walked dogs. She was putting the dog back. The dog got away from her when she was closing the garage. I think the woman didn't even realize the dog got away from her. She's not a professional. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to send my dog to a boarding kennel." You know what? When you send your dog to a boarding kennel, there are a lot of things that you're accomplishing. One, you're teaching your dog to be away from home. That's important because what happens when your dog is sick and has to stay overnight at the vet's office? If they're in a boarding kennel, they're getting used to spending a night or two away from home. So you're doing your dog a big favor and preparing your dog for down the road circumstances in life that are not controlled. You send your dog to a boarding kennel, you have professionals handling your dog. They know how to keep your dog safe and secure. Your dog is going to be well fed. And whether you choose to go to like a cage-free boarding kennel or the old-fashioned boarding kennel where the dogs are in kennel runs, your dog is safe. Your dog is being taken care of. Your dog does not have to live in the lap of luxury at home and get into God only knows what mischief. And you know what? The kid down the street or, the nice lady in the neighborhood who walks all the neighbors' dogs, does she have a backup plan? Suppose she gets sick and ends up in the hospital while you're in China. Does she have a backup plan? Who's going to let your dog out? Your dog's going to cross his legs until somebody gets into the house. What happens if she loses the key? What happens if your dog gets sick? Is she going to know how to handle it? If you keep your dog with professionals at a boarding kennel, they are equipped. They have backup plans. You're not going to have to worry about getting a phone call or at the last minute. I had a guy here a few years ago. He called me up like the day before he was going on this trip to like Hawaii or someplace. And his dog walker backed out on him the last minute. He found her on, it wasn't Rover. I think it was Angie's List or one of those apps that's like, instant dog walker. You're better off boarding your dog in a boarding kennel. Your dog is going to be safe. Your dog is going to be secure. And if something happens, they have plans for your dog. They know what to do and they know how to handle situations. So I implore you. And now it's March, the end of March. If you're going away this summer, I recommend you book your dog's boarding kennel now, because in another month or two, every single boarding kennel is going to be booked. I promise you that. So that's my little spiel on dog walkers, keeping your dog at home, and a pet sitter. If you're a pet sitter, please go get yourself educated. Good for you for wanting to make extra money, but go get yourself educated. Dogs are not all fluffy and they're not all well behaved and helpless creatures. There are dogs out there that can do some serious damage. I get Google alerts on my phone every day for dog bites and dog aggression. I can't tell you how many cases come across my news feed in this world. There was a case that came across yesterday. Grandma and a 7-month-old baby were home with the dog that was sometimes protective, that the neighbors were a little afraid of because the dog was protective. And as the newspaper article read, the dog suddenly became aggressive and hurt the grandmother and killed the baby. The dogs don't just wake up one day and become aggressive. The signs were there. I don't know more about that story, but go get your dog into a good obedience class. Stop thinking that all dogs are helpless little creatures. They're not. And if you're going to be working with dogs, you need to get yourself an education. And so that I'm going to get off of my soapbox when it comes to that. Now, also, since we're talking about summer, travel safety. I put a link in the description for my video on car safety. You want to take a look at, harnesses for your dogs, seatbelts for your dogs, crates for your dogs, and you want to start looking for that now and test running those things now before you take your summer vacation. That's very important. Again, I'm just looking at my notes. I apologize. Okay, so I think I went over just about everything I wanted to go over. Now, I'll do I'll tell a little funny story. One of our new teammates here that just started working with us, he's learned to become a dog trainer under us, and he's growing with us. He's a great guy. He's doing a lot of research at home, and he's doing a lot of studying. I'm giving him books, and he's just, he has a voracious appetite for learning everything about dog training. So he asked me today, he said, have you ever heard of Ed Frawley? I'm like, Ed Frawley? Everybody knows Ed Frawley. So Ed Frawley's a super nice guy. I'm actually supposed to do a trick video for him. I just haven't gotten it together yet. But I'm going to tell a funny story about Ed Frawley. I remember Ed Frawley, he used to have this newspaper print catalog that would go out. His background is Schutzhunds, German Shepherds, etc. And he'd send out this mail order catalog that was probably about this thick of newspaper print. And it was all videos of like Seaver shows and Schutzhund trials all over the world. He was traveling all over the world with his big VCR camera, and he'd come home and he'd make copies of these tapes and he would sell them, and he'd sell books. He was really ahead of his time, big time ahead of his time. And I'll never forget, we used to get the catalog all the time. This was, like I said, the 80s and the 90s. I get his catalog, and you'd open up the front page, and he'd have like a list of all the people, because this is back in the day before, credit cards were taken, everywhere, and wasn't the internet, we didn't have the internet yet. You would send a check, and mail order something. And he'd write a list of all the names of the people that would bounce checks on him. And he'd be like, don't do business with Joe Schmo. He's a super scumbag. And, he bounced a $650 check. And also would sell bite suits and bite sleeves and other work for agitation work and for bite work and Schutzhund training. All the different tools that you needed. So he would list, it was comical, he would list 10, 12, 15 people saying, don't do business with these people. And he'd have a list of names. It was the funniest thing. And that was the highlight of the catalog for me, looking to see, did I know anybody? Did I know anybody? How much did this guy screw him for? It was very funny. And then the internet came, and then he started learburg.com. And you know what? If you're in a place where you either can't afford training, or you don't want to go to a class, or you don't have a good dog trainer near you, go under learburg.com and pick up his videos. He's got a lot of free stuff on there. It's a huge plethora of information, but it's good, solid dog training information. And you could definitely download and stream a lot of his videos. He has a lot of good dog trainers on there, like Michael Ellis for one, and I can't think of who else is on there, but just puppy raising, puppy training, problem solving, etc. And it's a plethora of information. And I highly recommend, if you really want to train your dog on your own, that's a very good place to get some good information and get some videos and downstream some videos so that you can learn how to train your dog on your own. And so that's my funny Ed Frawley story. And then Melvin, our new partner here who came on, he was also asking me, he said, somebody said he was a jerk. Is he a jerk, Ed Frawley? And I laughed, because any dog trainer that's been around long enough, they're going to have their haters. And, Ed probably does. I don't know why, but it reminded me of something my dad used to say. He used to tell me, look, if you want people to like you, don't become a dog trainer. If you really want people to hate you, become a great dog trainer. So I'm guessing Ed Frawley probably has a lot of haters, like a lot of people do. I know I have my haters, and I'm okay with that. Because another saying my dad used to have was, you're not anybody until you piss somebody off. So I'm sure Ed's pissed some people off, but he's a good guy in my book. And I know I've pissed off people, and oh well, what can you do? I can't make everybody happy. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my Ed Frawley story. I wonder if anybody ever kept those catalogs, because they were just funny, and in there he'd have like all the videos that he was selling and all the different Schutzhund trials and dog shows he'd attend and videotape. So they were a lot of fun. And I hope somebody out there has some of those catalogs and maybe can take some pictures of it and upload it on their social media, because it would be fun to look at them. Anyway, I don't think I have any other questions that have come through. Yes, Tom, Tyler Muto is also on his website. That's right. Good guy up in Buffalo. And he's got a bunch of good people up there. And, thank you for reminding me about Tyler. Hey, Danny, how are you? It's good to see you up here. Anyway, all right. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. And we posted yesterday on Instagram, way back Wednesday, and a little story about three pit bulls my dad had trained in the 80s. And my dad had taken one of them onto TV because it was in the 80s. It was New York City, and a lot of anti pit bull sentiment was going on. So take a look at that post from way back Wednesday, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day. And be sure to check out my car safety video. Take care. Bye bye.